Well, this is for people who don't know, this is what a green room looks like. It's literally a room with a green couch. That's called a green room. That's it. All right. So now now my the light isn't that good, but is that okay?
Yeah, as long as you could hear us, we got you. You
Yeah,
all right?
I'm cool, man. I'm cool. Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
Awesome. No worries, man. We appreciate you joining the show. So before we get into this week 8 matchup against the Commanders, got to just go back and look at that game against the Miami Dolphins. Number one offense in the league comes in here, and really an unbelievable performance by that defense. What did you see that impressed you the most on the defensive side of the ball against the Dolphins?
I think the discipline that the Eagles played with, the tackling was really secure. You know, there was one play, I think it was maybe the first play of the game, where they get the ball to Tyreek Hill in the flat, and James Bradbury comes in, and you kind of think he's got the right angle, and then all of a sudden, Tyreek Hill's scooted past him. He's on the sidelines. So when you're playing a team that is as fast as the Dolphins, there are so many things to worry about. I thought that the Eagles at the nickel position, splitting reps with Eli Ricks and Josiah Scott, I thought they did a terrific job. The Eagles took advantage of Miami's offensive line, which I expected, and then Miami lost a player. Look, at the end of the day, the Eagles gave up, in my opinion, one touchdown drive, right? The pick six was 7 points for Miami. The Jalen fumble led to 3 points, a great hold by the Eagles defense. It was the most impressive defensive performance from Desai. I thought his disguise of his coverage was excellent. I thought the communication was terrific. Bill, I mean, they got the big takeaway with big play Slay in the red zone. I mean, I think we all thought that this was going to be a shootout, and it turned out that the Eagles defense dominated and led the way, and that was really impressive. And we've seen really when you kind of step back, I know that in this world we are very reactive one week to the next. I think if you step back and really look at it, this defense, for the most part, hiccups here and there, but for the most part, has gotten better and better and better, and that's really encouraging.
Yeah, I said it before you came on, Dave, that if you look at the last 3 weeks, since they gave up 258 to Sam Howell in week 4, they're averaging only 183 passing yards against, with really a different secondary every single week. So a great job by that coaching staff. And one question that keeps coming up in the chat every single day of this show is how much is Matt Patricia helping out on that defense? So, I mean, what has Matt Patricia been to this team and this defensive side of the football?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, a veteran, experienced um, defensive whiz. I mean, who's been able to work in a very collaborative setting. Make no mistake, this is Sean's defense, and Sean is the one who's calling the shots, but he's also one who accepts input from others. And I'm not sure that a lot of coaches in this league do that. So, I mean, but Matt has been a veteran voice in there in that room. Like the Eagles have not only had to replace the defensive coordinator position, secondary coaches new, linebackers coaches new. So there's been a lot of moving pieces. Matt Patricia knew, and to have this all come together here as we move into week 8, it's really encouraging. The defense seems to have started to find itself and find its identity. And then you go and add a player like, Kevin Byard, who's we'll see how much he plays on Sunday. Um, but I think it's really, really encouraging that this defense is trending in the right direction. And they're getting contributions, Bill, not only from the players that you expect, but Jalen Carter is an immediate impact player. They're getting, N'Kobe Dean is playing more and more and playing better and better. They've played so many players in the secondary and have gotten better and better. And those young players are getting valuable reps. So, but no question, Matt adds to it, and it's all just been a really good mix of coaches and philosophies, and the performance on the field bears that out.
And you mentioned Kevin Byard. Philadelphia Eagles just shut down the number one passing offense in the league. And then Howie Roseman turns around and says, you know what, though? Let's bring in an all-pro safety and add him to this defense. How excited are you about the addition of Kevin Byard at safety?
Yeah, very excited. His versatility, his production, his durability. his willingness to do everything that the team concept guy that he is, I'm very excited to see what they ultimately do with him, because I see him as a piece that you can use in a lot of different ways. And I always remember, I'm not comparing him to Brian Dawkins, who's one of his idols, but the way that Jim Johnson was able to use him in a variety of ways really helped that defense way back in the day. So, and really, CJ Gardner-Johnson had that ability as well. And the one thing that this defense, I talked to Fletcher Cox yesterday about it. He does feel like the defense is starting to find its identity, and he kept stressing that we need more takeaways, more takeaways. You think about it, Bill. The Eagles hadn't had a takeaway since the Tampa Bay game, I think. Yet the numbers were getting better, but until Sunday, they had not had a takeaway. I think it was 4 games. And so Byard comes in, and he does have that ability, 27 interceptions in his career, to take the football away. And that's something that you always want to build on. You want to be a defense that takes the football away. And getting stops is great. Sacks are huge, but turnovers, takeaways really can really quickly alter a game.
And that's something that the Washington Commanders have done a lot of this year, 21st in the NFL, turning the ball over 11 times. The problem is they're tied for 21st with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have also turned the ball over 11 times. What do you think's going on? It's a little bit uncharacteristic. They did such a good job of protecting the football last year. Why do you think they've turned the ball over as much as they have the first 7 weeks of the season?
I don't know. I mean, there's been a couple of goofy ones. The Dallas Goedert turnover, the Jalen gets his arm hit, the ball pops up in the air. That's a takeaway. But I really can't explain it. I mean, it's something that they stress. I expect it to get a lot better. A little bit of carelessness that's got to be corrected. And a lot of it's coming, from Jalen. And that's something he's never been known to do, is turn the football over. Last week, holding the football with 2 hands, trying to break the pocket and create some space. And, he turned the football over. The interception, the ball gets tipped. Look, the guy was right in his face. Maybe he was trying to do too much with it. I don't know. Maybe we give credit to the defensive player for sure. Ball gets tipped, up in the air, intercepted, return for a touchdown. So these things are going to happen, but for sure they have to really start declining. To be a championship team, you can't turn the football over.
Last season, Hertz was so good. Only 6 interceptions all year, only 2 fumbles lost all year. And then for whatever reason, so far through 7 weeks, already 8 interceptions and 2 fumbles. So I agree with you, though. I think this is something that we know Jalen Hertz. We know his work ethic. He's definitely going to try to fix that. And I expect him to start protecting the football a lot better. Because the one thing this Washington Commanders defense, as bad as they've been this year, and they're in the bottom of a lot of categories, 29th for yards against, 29th for points against. But one thing they do well is take the ball away. They are in the top 10 in causing turnovers, and they're also in the top 5 in generating sacks. So what do you think the key is this week for this Philadelphia Eagles offense to be able to protect the football and protect Jalen Hertz against that front that the Commanders have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is an awareness of the football and ball security, understanding, by the way, that the Commanders were embarrassed last week, losing to the New York Giants. So they're going to get the best, once again, from a Commanders team that took the Eagles to overtime just a few weeks ago. They're not going to have Will Barton, I don't think, for the key loss for Washington. I think the Eagles can run the football, but it comes down to the matchup of 4 first-round picks up front for the Washington Commanders against the Eagles' outstanding offensive line. This is the way it always is in football. This is the way it always is with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles, we know that A.J. Brown's been spectacular, and we know that Jalen Hertz is one of the best players in the league, and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, major weapons, but it always comes down to the offensive line versus the defensive line. And that's why I always feel good about the Eagles offense when we go into a game, because the Eagles offensive line is so good. So, but you can't let, the Jonathan Allens of the world, the Montez Sweats of the world, these guys who are getting heat from the Washington media, they're going to come and be charged up in front of their quasi-home crowd, because I do expect Eagles fans to invade FedEx Field once again. Thank you in advance to all the Eagles fans who are doing this. But it'll come down to the offensive line executing. I don't expect Washington to blitz Jalen much. I think they'll come with the Eagles moved the football really, really well the last time these teams played. So it just comes down to ball security, Bill. Look, we talked about this last week. The Eagles offense has been great this year, right? Other than, and Jalen said this the other day, they've actually statistically been better in a lot of categories than last year, other than giveaways and red zone. And last week against Miami, 4 for 5 in the red zone until that last kneel down possession. So it was 4 for 6. But the giveaways really hurt the Eagles. So let's hope that the team stays as efficient as they were on Sunday night against Miami in the red zone, and then those giveaways are minimized, and you're going to see an offense that is really taking off.
Yeah, and that's not rocket science. I said it before you came on, too, that it seems so simple, but the keys to this game, scoring touchdowns in the red zone, protecting the football on offense. They do that. I don't see how this Commanders team can compete. But I want to ask you a question about Brian Johnson in a second, but I want to first preface this so that our viewers understand. There's been a lot of complaints about Brian Johnson as a play caller, and I've had some issues with some of the play calls. But when you talk about the numbers this year compared to last year, last season's dominant offense averaged 389 yards per game. So far through 7 weeks, the Eagles are averaging 389 yards per game. So they're almost spot on. 28 points per game last year, 27 points per game this year. They're actually averaging more passing yards per game this year than they did last year. So I preface it with this because I do think the offense is really starting to find its rhythm. But obviously, Brian Johnson has never called plays in the NFL before. I think we've seen improvement each week. But what do you think about the job Brian Johnson has done through the first 7 weeks of this season as a play caller?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. I mean, there have been some real successes. And look, let's be honest, defenses have really done a nice job also playing the Eagles and understanding that the number one key is to try to eliminate Jaylen Herz from the run game. And so you haven't seen, for example, the quarterback draw be as effective. So you have to adjust and you have to make counter moves. And the red zone, let's look, the criticism of the Eagles, not just Brian Johnson, but of the Eagles in the red zone, absolutely merited. When you're ranking in the low 20s, look, everybody wants that to be better. It's not like the Eagles are going around going, hey, stop criticizing me. No, the Eagles want to score touchdowns. And when it doesn't happen, they're not happy with it either. So everybody understands the scrutiny that Brian is under. Maybe people thought that it would be very seamless, that, there would be no transition period. Well, of course there's going to be a transition. But I think that the Eagles offense has adjusted well. I think it's ascending. And look, I mean, I'm not going to talk about any teams, but you do not. I know that earlier in the season, Eagles fans were going, oh my gosh, I can't believe how good that other team is. I won't name the team. We all know who it is. They're going to be so dangerous. Well, that other team is not playing as good at football right now. You want to ascend in the course of a season. And so early on, the Eagles look, last year, the Eagles didn't score in the second half of the first couple games. I mean, they just struggled in the second half of games. This year, the struggle has been in two areas. Again, red zone and giveaways. And hopefully they've started to solve the red zone challenges. Next up, no giveaways. So I think Brian's done a good job. And it will always, the goal is always to be better and better and better and better and better.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head there. Really, the issue is the red zone. And as good as the offense has been, fourth in the league, putting up 27 points a game, they're sitting there at 19th in the NFL in red zone efficiency. If they can fix the red zone, they're going to be really scary with the amount of points that they're going to put up every week. And last week, really, they were good. You said 4 of 6, but it was 4 or 5. And after that first drive that stalled, they went 4 straight drives converting in the red zone, which was huge. And let's talking about 4 straight drives converting in the red zone. How about 4 of 4 on fourth down last week for this Philadelphia Eagles offense? A lot of it was the tush push, but one of them was a 4th and 3, which was not a tush push. How much do you love Nick Sirianni's aggressiveness in those situations?
I got to tell you, though, frankly, I was pretty stunned. 10 minutes left in the game, 7-point lead at their own 26-yard line, and he went for it. I mean, that shows a lot of great. So let's go back to what was the game. What was the game earlier in the season when the Eagles went for it, didn't make it, and everybody kind of got on Nick for showing confidence in his players.
There was a
See, I
fourth
think,
down that he didn't get in the beginning. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on the game, but people in our chat will probably know. They know everything in the
yeah,
chat.
and but it certainly was a little bit longer. I think it was like a 4th and 7 or something, and he went for it, didn't get it, got a lot of criticism. I mean, the guy just shows confidence in his players. He's an aggressive guy. It is an interesting concept, though, when you really think about it. If you believe, and I'm not saying the Eagles believe this, but I'm saying that just concept-wise, if you believe that, every 4th and 1, the Eagles are going to go for it, right? So then instead of starting at 1st and 10, you're starting at 1st and 9. It kind of shortens everything up for the Philadelphia Eagles. And there's a big advantage to that. So I love the aggressiveness. I love the confidence that he shows in his players. And I think that, again, it goes back to the offensive line. When you can execute a play like the brotherly shove, Bill, I will not refer to it as the tush push. It's got to be the brotherly shove. And other teams just don't do it well. You watch other teams; they just do not do it well. The quarterback just does not drive as Jaylen Herz drives. The offensive line does not create as the Eagles' offensive line creates. Who was it? Kirk Cousins got stopped the other night when Fred Warner jumped over the pile, and Kirk Cousins is like, short stepping it, trying to get that half yard. So the Eagles just run it really well, and I'm all for it, and it shows great confidence in the players, and I think the players appreciate that.
And on those 4 for 4 on 4th down, I think the most demoralizing thing for the Dolphins was that was on 3 different drives. All 3 of those drives led to touchdowns. So by going forward on 4th down and extending the drive, they then convert for 7 points. That's just huge, man. Huge. And somebody asked in the chat, and I already know the answer, but they said, did Dave get a Super Bowl ring? You're damn right? You got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, I have 3 rings. I have the NFC Championship rings from the 2004 and 2022 seasons, and I have of course, the World Championship ring of 2017. And if you like, and I'm not a braggart person by any means, but I'm happy to bring them on next week, and I can show them to people. Or we'll do it during the bye week, Bill, when there's kind of have a lull period here.
I like that.
But yeah, they're very special, and I would love to get another World Championship ring. I've got 2 children, and I'd like to share with the kids.
Yeah, that would be pretty damn cool. Pretty damn cool. Well, we mentioned earlier about Howie Roseman bringing in Kevin Byard, which was a great move. So now you bring Byer to this team. He's got a lot of versatility back there. Who do you think now takes that slot corner position that's really been a revolving door the first 7 weeks of the season?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Now I know Byard has that ability to do that. I'm not sure that you feed him all of that right now. But, through the years, there has been an interesting correlation between the way the Eagles play the safety position and the way they play the slot corner position. Now, coupling with that, last week, watching Eli Ricks and watching Josiah Scott play as well as they did against Miami is encouraging. So my supposition is that the Eagles will stay with that combination against Washington, which may not have Curtis Samuel, who's banged up as well. So that would be big. And look, for a young player like Eli, what a huge, again, I talked to him in the locker room yesterday. What a boost of confidence for him. He's a big cornerback, so playing in the slot is different. Did a good job. Josiah Scott comes back, looked like a completely different player than he did last year. So, that the Eagles have continued to rotate there. It's a fluid situation. I don't think there's an answer yet, but they're building toward one. So I would tell you that Byard would likely stay at safety, unless the Eagles feel like he's just picked this stuff up and right away is on track with the language of the defense. It's not the concept of the defense that is going to be hard for Kevin to pick up. It will be just the language of the calls, of the audibles, of the adjustments that they make. He's played in the league long enough that he knows everything that the Eagles are doing. It's not that revolutionary. It's very difficult to reinvent a defense. But what's different is the language and the adjustments. And so that, in a very short period of time, is what Kevin is learning. Not learning the playbook, he's learning the game plan for this week. So, but to answer your question, Bill, I would expect that Scott and Ricks, with the idea that Byard could be that guy if he picks it all up.
Any chance you see Sidney Brown get some more playing time at that slot corner position?
Yeah, I mean, I think a rookie, you're trying to teach him. I thought he played, he played a lot last week and did a good job last week. And I think you just go step by step with somebody like Sydney. It's possible. The Eagles are high on him. He's learning. It's just a lot to throw at a young player. Again, the difference between Kevin, there are different Kevin, and Kevin's been in the league for 8 years. Sydney's been in the NFL for 8 weeks in the regular season. That's a big difference.
And you mentioned Eli Ricks. I was so impressed with that guy against the Miami Dolphins, just how fearless he is. He's going up against one of the best wide receivers in the league, and he's out there battling, man. And he's an undrafted rookie. We saw it in the preseason, and we saw more of the same against Miami. I'm really high on the future for Eli Ricks.
Absolutely, and he knows it, and he's working hard. And just a caution, because this is how the NFL works: the more he is on tape, the more that offenses will find his weaknesses and go after his weaknesses. So players are always working on improving themselves and minimizing those weaknesses. But for sure, Eli is a big, rangy guy, and he's a physical cornerback, and he's gaining confidence. And to be able to go inside where you must flip your hips in such a short area, and that's very difficult for a bigger cornerback to do. Very impressive job on Sunday night.
A couple of questions about injuries for you, and then I want to just ask you, obviously, about Jaylen Herz. Got to ask you about Jaylen Herz. But before we get there, on the defensive side of the ball, a couple players missed practice yesterday. James Bradbury, Zach Cunningham. I think Milton Williams and Jordan Davis were limited. Are all four of these guys on track to play on Sunday?
Yeah, Nick just answered that in his press conference and was kind of like, hey, we'll see how they feel today. So I really can't give you anything more than that. I'm not privy to that information, nor would I give that information. That comes from the coach. Just staying hopeful that everything's okay, and we'll see what the injury report looks like today.
All right, jumping over to offense, and I think you may give me a similar answer on our man Jaylen Herz. But last week, we're watching the Miami Dolphins game. In the first half, Jalen goes to scramble. It looks like he was a little bit gimpy. On the halftime show that I do for JAKIB, we had John McMullen reporting from Lincoln Financial, and I said to him, John, it looks like Jalen's a little bit gimpy. And John said, it's interesting that you say that because he's been limping around the NovaCare complex all week. I said, John, that's the first time you're telling me this, man. So then we see him in the knee brace in the second half. I know you got to be tight-lipped here, but he's not on the injury report. Are we okay?
There's nothing tight-lipped about it. I mean, He's not on the injury report. Now, does he maybe have something with his knee? Well, he's got the knee brace, so there's something, maybe whatever. But he's playing through it. He's playing fine. They called 2 brotherly shoves late in the game, and he got great push from his legs. So, I mean, I think every player who has played 7 games is banged up. And I think that's just what it is. I don't anticipate it being anything else other than that. I think that there's nothing to really be. I think the way Nick, he's not on the injury list, so
yeah,
I don't anticipate there being any sort of injury.
Yeah, and good news, I do a Legal Hands to the Face podcast every week, and I have an orthopedic doctor on, and he basically said the same thing, is, look, nothing to worry about. He probably has that brace just for a little bit of stability. Maybe he's got something going on there, but nothing for fans to worry about. He's going to be fine. So let's hope, because obviously this team only goes as far as our man Jaylen Herz. But all good stuff. One last question for you. Howie Roseman, is he done dealing, Dave, or do we got something else coming out?
Okay, the deadline's on October 31st, right? Do you ever count out Howie Roseman?
Never, man. That's why we love him.
Right? So, he's always looking to improve the roster. We'll see.
We will see. So, well, Dave, I really appreciate it, brother. Let's hope we get another big win. You and I will jump on next week, hopefully, and we'll be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles being the only 7-1 team, because I think they're going up 2 games after this weekend, man. I think the Cowboys are losing. I think the 49ers are losing. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have a 2-game lead on those teams in the NFC.
Well, Bill, I will take that. A 2-game lead after 8 weeks would be amazing. So let's keep our fingers crossed and let's go Birds.
Love it, man. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate you, brother. You have a good weekend. I'll talk to you next week.
Good weekend. Take care.
So there's Eagles insider Dave Spadaro. Always love when he joins the show. Appreciate it. I know his lighting was off, but making time for us as he's doing a spot for NBC. So really appreciate Dave Spadaro coming on. And he's going to be joining us every week. The day may change. Usually we try to get him on Tuesdays, but he's got a lot going on with the Philadelphia Eagles and a lot of media spots and things like that. But Spads will be joining us every single week, hopefully. But really good stuff. When we get back, guys, we're going to take one more break. When we get back, I want to get all of your predictions in the chat for this Sunday matchup between the Washington Commanders. I will give you my final prediction, but probably no surprise where I'm headed after some of the things we've talked about this week. But stay tuned. We'll do our predictions when we get back.